Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEALER1. Always open at Shealer.com.
With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Call us to get your Care Watch right now.
800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. 800-681-8020. That's 800-681-8020. Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At U.S. Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With U.S. Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
U.S. Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With U.S. Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. 800-803-3771. That's 800-803-3771.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app. 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So I thought TJ Wilkerson, I'm biased, of course, is he's with us here in the Fast Lane today, but he does fill in for us as well and was with us Thursday and Friday this past week. But did a fantastic job, he and Bryson Gordon, discussing the tragedy that I learned about Thursday night while watching the Liberty Flames men's basketball game against Middle Tennessee. And it's the unfortunate and shocking passing of John McSweeney as the boys basketball coach at Liberty. Most everybody knows about that development as it unfolded late last week. And the beauty, if there is any, of the snowstorm, I know I've spent plenty of time ranting and raving about it, although it's a blessing in the sense that I get to spend time with my kids. It's challenging as is work-wise. And you cherish moments with people that you love and care about because you never truly know. I'll get religious for 10 seconds here. Not that I'm ashamed of it, but we try not to be overbearing with that. You never know when God's going to call your time. That's just kind of always been what my mom and dad have instilled in me growing up, is you never know. And doesn't mean we don't make mistakes. Everybody is, somewhere in the Bible, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, which is part of the reason why I'm largely as non-judgmental of other people in a, you're going to heaven, you're going to hell sense. I don't make that call. Part of the beauty of my faith is not having to worry about that. But you never know how long you're going to have somebody around. And yes, we're all guilty of taking for granted the days that we have, the time that we have with people, sometimes to the point where it's difficult for us to really contextualize it. And yet you realize the impact that coaches have. And I get it, we're closer to the sun on this than many people even in sports media are, because the relationship that TJ has, he's done play-by-play broadcasting and is obviously filled in the fast lane. And then, same thing with me. We speak with coaches regularly. And I don't know if you've noticed this, TJ, but when you're at a particular school doing play-by-play, home or away, since we both broadcast different schools, like JF Cavalier Football presented by TrostLaw.com, you get the impression and you learn that your impact, in a great way, it's a blessing, but it reaches not just the football program of your school. it can reach the opposing team if you're doing a professional enough job, which can then open the doors to what you do to people in other sports at that school. And then it goes beyond that and it goes to other sports across the area. And I get it. Fans are fans. They're going to have their opinions. Some are more fervent than others, particularly if you're a parent. I understand that parents are understandably very much so that way. But when you take a big picture and step back and look at the impact of a coach like John McSweeney on Liberty, I think a lot of it can be traced back to, oddly enough, Brad Bradley, who is the one who came up with the concept of Seminole District football media days. I don't know whether this is something that has gone on all throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, and he just helped introduce it in August of 2024. And they did it again in 25, and good Lord willing, we'll continue on with that for a while. But Brad Bradley's the one who brought this to the forefront. And as much as I don't think I'm even upset Brad Bradley when I say this, Ty Tracy, producer of the morning warm-up, 7 to 8 a.m., can vouch for this because he played for Brad Bradley. But Brad Bradley can be a bit abrasive at times. And some people do not like it. Some people do. He has always been very professional and respectful for us and who we are and what we do. And we are thankful for that. And the fact that he coaches very hard. By the way, I've heard these two thoughts. Haven't heard it from our own Trey Lyle as an official. But I've heard it from other officials in the area. And then I've heard it obviously from people like Ty. He rarely will go ape you-know-what on an official. He'll go it on his players. But if you're thinking about his players and where a lot of them come from, it works. It's a middle working class group of kids that are often there at Heritage. Different socioeconomic dynamics. Doesn't make them better or worse. Every school's got their own mixture of people, and we've seen it succeed in all sorts of realms. LCA's got their type. JF has theirs. Liberty has theirs in certain sports when they've been successful. Brookville, EC Glass, they're all different. Amherst, Rustburg, all of them are different, but all of them had success in different sports because of that. But when you step back from the competition, and this is part of where I think the John McSweeney death really resonates, there's still a level of familial sense when it comes to the Seminole District. I don't know if it's that way in others. It was when I was in Martinsville with the Piedmont District. I know it's more fractured now. Martinsville's in one district, Magna Vista, Ambassador in a different district. So they play, but it's not the same stakes, not to mention district tournaments and, sports have kind of gone away as the VHSL playoffs have expanded. But the Seminole District still has a level of familialness. Brad Bradley's often compared it to the SEC, but I don't think that's wrong. We can mock the whole SEC chants, which were great back when they were actually winning and competing for national titles, unlike the last 3 years where they've been MIA and we've seen more ACC teams than SEC teams. But a lot of the appreciation for John McSweeney, I think, can be traced back to that sentiment. I remember what Brad Bradley said at the first Seminole District football media days, and it kind of resonates now into the reaction of the passing of John McSweeney, as tragic as it is for Liberty High School, the student athletes, the community, and those in the area. There's a familial element of why people, not just in Bedford and at Liberty, have rallied, but it goes within the Seminole District. And I think a lot of this goes back to what Brad Bradley thought of when helping organize the concept of Seminole District football media days, which, by the way, expanded to boys basketball this past year.
I've seen the SEC media days, in college and so on and so forth. And I think it was just an awesome idea to be able to put together something to get these kids in this district, what we feel like is one of the best districts in the state of Virginia, a chance to get more publicity. I think it's a chance to kind of get our district out there a little bit more. I think it's a very competitive district. And you guys kind of know the history of the district and how it has been over the last 10, 15 years. And I just thought it was something good. I think it's something that we can build in the future to make it even bigger and get some sponsors and things like that. But I just think it's a great opportunity to get guys in front of you guys. Gives opportunity for maybe, you guys to get some things that you're not going to get any other time. So I thought it was a win-win situation for media and Seminole players and coaches.
Brad Bradley, again, rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I get it. I've seen it, and I think even he doesn't even back down from his style being what works for him, and it doesn't work for everybody, but it's been successful at William Campbell, William Fleming, and at Heritage. He's made deep playoff runs, including state championships at multiple stops. So the evidence is there. But when you step away from the competitive side, seeing the familial aspect of the Seminole District, and I think that's carried over. The Seminole District had their first boys basketball media days this past year. Jeff Monroe, Jefferson Forest Cavaliers boys basketball coach, was the organizer behind that. But a lot of this goes back to the concept, TJ. And again, maybe I'm seeing this differently, but the outpouring of support for John McSweeney and his passing within Liberty and the people who understand what he meant to Liberty High School, to Bedford, Virginia, and most importantly, to the players that he has coached, that is indicative of the fact that there's a level of competition and maybe a lack of forgiveness, I get it, amongst fans and particularly parents of certain schools. But a lot of these coaches in the area, as fierce as they are competitive-wise, including some that, Brad Bradley might fit this, where it's difficult for them to drop their frustrations with other schools, they understand the bigger picture element of it's about helping kids, it's about making an impact. And that's where I think the outpouring of support for John McSweeney and for Liberty basketball stands out in a real positive way for this area.
No, and you can listen to it in coaching interviews with like JT Cruz and Mark Linneberg, Frank Rocco in his time coaching. You can hear just the respect and the mission that they all have, and it's to help kids in athletics and prepare them for the real world. Every time you ask a coach, I'm just here to help get these kids ready for the next level.
Don't get me wrong. There's competitiveness that goes on.
Absolutely.
We make the jokes about how, I think recruiting, particularly in the more profile sports, boys basketball and football.
Oh, yeah.
That recruiting happens. To me, it all kind of comes out in a wash in the sense that I've seen players on almost everyone's roster that I've seen on some other school's roster the year before. Like, I've seen it enough where I'm just like, to me, it is what it is. And there are loopholes and ways that you can work around this particular development. But when you step back, there is still a level of humanity that exists in high school sports that I think is part of what makes it great. And that's where I go back to the conversation you had with Bryson Gordon Friday in the Fast Lane. And I've thought about it a lot since listening live, again, to get my usher on for a moment in the Fast Lane. I was driving, and so I just listened on 93.3 FM instead of the VTR in Sports app. But when you had the conversation with Bryson Gordon about John McSweeney and his impact, it was great. Bryson did a phenomenal job. And we'll have Bob Alvis on from the Sports Buffet podcast. Bob has a great article up that is available. Search it on social media. Bob Alvis will friend anybody if you get with him on Facebook. But it's a phenomenal article. But it's about the impact of a coach, the way he treats people that maybe can't do a lot for them. Even though we in the media like to think we have a lot of importance, it's really not. But the way that a lot of coaches get that our job is in the area, and yes, we're providing some free publicity for them, but it's not like we're sitting here, we're VTR and Sports powered by ESPN Radio. We are not national ESPN or ESPN Radio. Got to have confidence to be able to stand in front of a mic, but I'd like to say we have perspective on that. But these coaches are great to us, and it creates an impact where in the college and especially the professional levels, college more than ever because it's bigger business, with bigger profile sports, you don't get that sense of connection. Whereas Bryson Gordon, I think, hit the nail on the head about how devastating this John McSweeney death is for Liberty basketball, regardless of what happens with the season. And they're scheduled to play Friday, but the weather has given them time to gather their thoughts, come up with a plan. I don't think you can go wrong either way. If you don't feel like you can play, I get it. If you want to give it a shot to honor him, I think that's even better. But I get either way. But Bryson Gordon had this to say about the impact of John McSweeney on the Bedford community.
I'm sure it's a really shocked community in Liberty Bedford tonight, and I think it's going to be tough for them to get back to basketball. It all, like I said earlier, it all comes secondary whenever you have huge life moments like this. That despite all the good that's going on at Liberty right now, it's just hard to look past the unfortunate events that have happened.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, especially when you think about the impact of John McSweeney. And being part of, and we saw it with Brad Womack in football this year. We've seen it with Shania Brown's been the figurehead, but there have been other great players by her side last year and this year. And obviously the coaching staff for Liberty girls basketball 3 years ago, there wasn't a lot that was going positive for Liberty athletics. It really wasn't. And you have programs now in football and boys, and I'll say now girls basketball as well. They are higher profile than they've ever been. And because of that, Liberty, again, nobody's pretending that this team is guaranteeing or has tons of proof of deep playoff runs, but they're starting to show signs of progress. And John McSweeney has been a big part of that. I get it's loaded. Who knows how Region 2C will, or if John McSweeney were with us, unfortunately, obviously, we know about his tragic passing, but we don't know how this season's going to go. But Liberty's in a spot where you could feel a level of pride. And I think everybody that is around the Seminole District understands that Liberty's been down. You want to beat your opponent, but you don't want them to be in a spot where Liberty had been for a while. And that's where I think Bryson Gordon hit the nail on the head of how the Seminole District reaction speaks loudly to the impact of John McSweeney, the person, John McSweeney, the coach, and his impact on developing young men in a way that you ultimately want to see. And that's where it's sad, but it's also a great way to remember John McSweeney's legacy and going about being the best version of yourself as whatever your profession is, of trying to have a positive impact on those around whom you're based and with whom you live your life.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of surprise. I haven't been up there today, but you just see some of the statements rolling out from some of the other teams. Not even just at Liberty High School, but also around the Seminole District. I think pretty much every team has posted something about it right now because I think there was a lot of respect. There was tons of respect for Coach McSweeney around the area, just considering what he was doing and the way he went about it, how nice of a guy he was. I think the school put out a letter to families today earlier talking about, how they had implemented some of their, crisis response stuff in terms of, giving counselors to students because, Coach McSweeney was more than a coach. He was also, an in-school suspension coordinator for the last, I think, at least 2 or 3 years since he's been on staff there on the basketball team. And so, he was in the building and somebody that, even more than the basketball players knew, he was a guy, if you read the letter to the family, somebody that, pretty much anybody that he came in contact with, had a good connection with him. And so,
yeah, I mean, a lot of people with whom he came in contact, and that's just the impact of high school sports, and part of why we think it's as important as it is, and what we discuss at different levels here in the fast lane, and Trey does as well in the morning warm up with Ty Tracy, 7 to 8 a.m. Because high school sports, it's a different level of communal. Nobody's going to pretend that the quality is the same as you progress up the food chain. It's obviously not. And if that's what you're looking for, of course, you look at semi-pros, what I'll basically call college basketball and college football, because it's basically professional. And then obviously the actual organized professional leagues, no, that's the word I use because college sports is not, but the organized professional sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA, you go there for quality. You go there for elements of team, but you're not expecting that you're going to be able to actually have a real connection with the head coach or the star player of your favorite team. In high school, they're head coaches and they can be stars on your team, but you also know that they're part of your community, and there's a different level of warmth and embrace. And if you're not from the area, maybe you don't get it, but if you are, you do. And I think that's part of where it's so worth remembering the legacy of John McSweeney, because he brought that to Liberty where they felt a point of pride for their basketball program. And they deserved to feel a point of pride for their basketball program because nobody knew how it was going to go. They had not cut down major nets and lifted big-time hardware, but they were progressing to where that was a possibility, to where they were playing a brand of basketball that was delivering results. And you were seeing the hard work that the kids put in pay off. And I think everybody understands that the student athletes, to different degrees, are putting in work, but understanding what it takes to get there. And that is part of the legacy and the respect of other coaches and schools in the area, understanding how challenging that job is, but that Liberty found somebody who would embrace that, tackled it head on, and delivered results. That's the real challenge. And if there's a blessing of all this snow and inclement weather and games getting postponed and canceled, it's given Liberty a chance to sit back, gather themselves, figure out how they want to progress with their season. And I don't think there's a wrong way to go about it. Nothing is, I've seen officially announced, and I was looking earlier today. So if it's happened in the last 15, 20 minutes, I'll ask for forgiveness. But I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I'm always a fan of, it's great if you can go out there and give it your best to try to honor your coach. And it's never going to be easy, but that's part of it. I hearken back for myself. And I know we got Virginia Tech women's basketball, and we'll probably get more into that tomorrow in the fast lane. And we've got tons of NFL news as well. And we may get to it with Candy Waller, but if not, we'll get to it later. But I harken back to, again, to tie it all back to my Christian faith. And again, beauty of America. You can believe what you want. I don't tell people they're going to heaven or hell. I have my beliefs on how that's going to happen, but it's a free country. You're free to believe whatever you want. And that's the beauty of America. But when our pastor at our church, Father Chris, we go to a church in Lynchburg, and he died of a heart attack back in May. And when he passed away, it was tough. And it was tough to, pull myself off the mat. And, we were doing the Memorial Day 10K run and 2-mile walk, great partners of ours when we've been partnering with them the last couple of years. But that was that weekend. And it was tough, but you go out and you do it and you give it the best you can. And you come back and do a show and you keep doing it, even though, you do it the same day. You came back from the Memorial Day holiday, same day as the service. Like it's it's quick, just like that. And, why do you keep doing it? Because honestly, that's part of the lesson that people that are influential in your life, for me, it's pastors, it's coaches, it's parents, is I think it's healthy to mourn. I think it is healthy to feel sad. The idea of, we're going to pretend like, we're going to suppress it and keep on moving on. Absolutely not. You need to lean into it. But I do think there's value in persevering through that and giving your best effort, knowing that you may need time. It may be slower. You may need a downshift, but you're putting your best foot forward and getting yourself. And that's where I can't pretend to have the type of resources that Liberty High School can have access to when it comes to that. But it can be valuable during those difficult times. So we're going to table Virginia Tech women's basketball. We're going to table the Fast Five at 5-ish because when we return in the Fast Lane, we've got to get to covering the Commonwealth. There's no easy transition out of this, but we will make it as best we can. We will cover the Commonwealth. We'll talk JMU. We'll talk some Virginia Cavaliers. And if the schedule's working out for our friend, Candy Waller, we will get to her as well. Plus, the Virginia Tech Lady Hokies and their big victory over UVA with David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. All of that still to come here in the Fast Lane. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you listen to podcasts, and as always, the VTR and Sports app.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, one amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we believe personal banking should be as rooted in the community as you are. Whether managing your business banking, saving for your family's dream home, or juggling daily expenses with our mobile app, we offer tailored solutions with a local touch. Experience the security of a bank that knows your name and the convenience of modern technology. Visit us today to grow your financial future right here at home. The Farmers Bank of Appomattox, your community, your bank, your future.
Have you been hit by the winter doldrums? Are you itching for a place with more than a couple hours of daylight? Start your journey to a warm weather escape with us. Scuba classes are forming right now at Aquatrek Adventures. We can have you ready for a warm, relaxing excursion to a sunny tropical destination, including our spring getaway to sunny Florida. Take the first step. Call Aquatrek Adventures on Mill Lane in Salem and visit our website at aquatrekadventures.com to sign up for the certification or your trip.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets, or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
A cool food concept sparks curiosity. What about two concepts at one restaurant? That's even better. Oliver's on Rivermont is Lynchburg's first multi-concept restaurant. Pick items from the traditional Oliver's menu, the 801 Raw Bar menu, or mix and match. And you'll appreciate the consistency of Oliver's new kitchen and serving staff. Two cool concepts in one. Only available at Oliver's on Rivermont.
Hey, gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Well, we got to call him out for it. What is it and who is he? Find out right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Duke.
Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com and at Shane_DNR Sports is with us here in the Fast Lane. Shane, pleasure to be speaking with you. I was fully expecting to see some asterisks in there to bleep out the words because your headline, it's the second one that pops up at DNRonline.com under the college sports section. Dukes hope to have injured players back to face the Cajuns on Wednesday. And in the Fast Lane, we believe that hope is not a very viable game plan, which is why we beep out the word hope whenever it comes to fruition. Is that where we are with the JMU Dukes, that hope is what they're doing because they are as injured as they have been at this juncture of the season?
To a degree. I think they expect to have at least a couple guys back for this one. But on Saturday, they were pretty shorthanded. I mean, Justin McBride's the big one because, he's obviously the leading scorer, the best player on the team, I would say, probably all around. So missing him for basically 2 games was tough. To get a win at Troy without him was one of the best performances of the year. But there just was a real lack of depth on Saturday at Southern Miss. They were really only able to go about 6 deep by the time that game was over with the injuries to some role players. And it's mainly kind of, existing injury problems are now being built upon because they've been shorthanded the majority of the season.
So you bring up an interesting point. There are a lot of Dukes fans are wondering, how can they have regressed from last year to this year? First of all, players transfer more freely. Rosters are so different. I think that's important to keep in mind. But the other element is you mentioned the injury issues that have impacted the Dukes. Should JMU fans maybe rethink in the middle of the season the way they assess the job that Preston Spradlin has done? Maybe not relative to what they believe Dukes basketball can be, but relative to where the Dukes are this year, given the volume of injuries.
I think to a degree. I think this hasn't been the team that they maybe expected to have put together. And that even goes back to really when they were working the portal. I think they maybe expected that they were going to land a few people that they didn't. But that's neither here nor there. They have the team that they have. But, a player like Ike Cornish, I think, is somebody who would have been a major contributor throughout the season. He's just dealt with a bad back the entire time. And, I don't think it's a coincidence. Probably their 3 best wins this year. He's played. He's played about 10 minutes a game, but he's making a contribution in those games. And, so the injuries are part of it. I think, the staff is also, I'll probably write something about this later in the week. I didn't have time to do it today, but he had his press conference today, Preston Spradlin, and he opened up a little bit about, how hard it was kind of in the off season and the ability to retain players and how, they're going to go about the portal in a different way next year. They're kind of trying to plan what they want to do when it comes to putting together the roster for next year. And it won't be exactly the same as how they handled last offseason.
Yeah, that's encouraging enough because you're looking at ways where you can improve, and it doesn't mean you're going to run everybody off, but something's got to change when you've underperformed the way that the Dukes men's basketball team has. Meanwhile, the JMU Lady Dukes, they lost that heartbreaker at Arkansas State a couple of weeks ago, the boogeyman, if you want to call it, last Sunday. And then they won their next 2 games in dominant blowout fashion, 35-plus point victories, actually 35 and 51 to be, 35 and 51 to be specific about the margin of victory for the JMU Lady Dukes. Is that just a product of being at home against bad teams, or is that the fact that maybe that loss to Arkansas State has lit a different kind of fire under them?
A little bit of both. Those were not good teams, and those are teams that JMU could definitely beat up on. But, you can go back a couple weeks ago. They lost to Marshall on the road. Then they get Marshall at home. They beat them by close to 40. And, they won their home games in conference by an average of 30 points. So they've been super dominant at home. They haven't really matched that on the road. And, Arkansas State's a good team. You lose on the road to Arkansas State. That's one thing. Georgia State's not a very good team. They lost on the road to Georgia State. That's another thing. So they are starting to kind of, I guess, examine a little bit what the difference on the road is. But I mean, to a person, when you ask the players about it, they're just saying, well, we just got to play our game, whether we're at home or on the road. And we've done it at home. We haven't on the road. So we'll see how it goes. I keep expecting them to kind of like have it click no matter where they are, but it's been a marked difference depending on whether they're in Harrisonburg or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing for the JMU Lady Dukes is you're sitting there going, uh-oh, which begs the question, is that going to be their reaction when they head to the Southern Miss Lady Eagles this weekend is more uh-oh because they have to go back on the road?
I don't know. I mean, that's not a bad team. They're not a great team, but Southern Miss beat Troy, which is, also up there in the conference standings. So they're capable of doing some stuff on their home court. So JMU's got to play somewhat closer to what they've done at home if they want to have a successful road trip here.
Yeah, Southern Miss, they are 5-6 in conference play, 12-10 overall in the Southern Miss Lady Golden Eagles. Last one for you, Shane, and we're grateful for it. FOIA, you may have pulled it off. Maybe they just gave it to you, but whatever it is, documents have detailed about the JMU Athletics spending revenues during the fiscal year 2024-2025, $78 million on athletics. Where does that fit relative to where the Dukes should be spending compared to their Sunbelt peers?
I mean, it's more than their Sunbelt peers. And it was a FOIA request to get that from JMU. I've made the request to all 14 schools that are going to be in the Sun Belt next year. I skipped over Texas State because they're leaving the conference. Haven't gotten them all back, but hey, I do want to compare, I think, a little bit more because you can break down not just what they're spending, but where they're spending it. I'm curious, who spends more money on baseball than basketball, which some Sun Belt schools do and things like that. So, I'll probably have a little bit more on that front coming up. But, I think, that budget – It works for JMU because I think it puts them in a position where obviously you're very competitive in the Sun Belt spending that amount of money, but it also puts you at a point where if you do want to try to jump to another conference, whether it be like the American or if the Pac-12 moves east or something like that, then you're spending with those schools too.
Shane, thank you for your time in the Fast Lane. Appreciate the perspective. That's the type of evergreen content that we'll be able to discuss heading towards the offseason. In the meantime, we appreciate your time today. Stay sane with this inclement weather as it hopefully thaws out over the next couple of weeks. And I got to censor myself and put one in the virtual swear jar because I said hopefully and didn't beep it out like I'm trying to do for your articles.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good rest of the week.
I love how you slipped that in there so I couldn't beep it out, Shane. Very clever.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ed.
Now to the Virginia Cavaliers.
With JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Hootie, great to be speaking with you. It wasn't pretty. They trailed at the half. We were all sitting there wondering when we were celebrating our own Ty Tracy's 30th birthday this past Saturday. TJ, Trey, and I were all sitting there wondering when the Who's would get it together at Boston College. And ultimately, they did about 5 minutes in to that second half. Was that a disconcerting loss considering how the Who's had to use 2 overtimes to win at Notre Dame? Or is this the portion of the schedule where it's tough, you're in the middle of conference play, and you're playing in kind of lifeless venues?
I think it's the latter. And we spoke about this last week that Virginia would have to create its own energy on the road because both of those arenas are usually half empty and not very noisy. So I think it was just a matter of getting acclimated, trying to figure out at halftime in each game what was not going right and how to correct it, and they did a good job of that. We've seen not just Virginia, but a lot of teams go on the road mid-January, late January, early February, and lose games that they shouldn't lose, but for just, for whatever reason. And, I think to walk out of this past week with 2 wins, even though they were supposed to win, was an accomplishment. And, I was talking to Jeff Jones, former Virginia coach, on a podcast a week ago, and he said, it's not really the North Carolinas and the Dukes games that you have to worry that much about it. It's the games like the ones that, that people take for granted you're going to win. That's where the pressure comes in, because you can't afford to lose those games. The NCAA really frowns upon that over in the red column, so to speak. So for them to go on the road like that and come out unscathed, I think speaks highly of their ability to adjust. And, Odom made some good adjustments at halftime, and they were 2 of 16 from 3 in the first half. And he said, you don't have to stop shooting threes, but, take good threes. You don't just jack them up just to be taking threes, which I think they had gotten a little loose in the last couple of weeks. And to focus on attacking the basket and getting the ball to DeRidder, because Notre Dame and Boston College couldn't find a way to stop him, especially when it gets the ball in the paint. He's almost unstoppable. So I think they came out of that week with a little bit more momentum at the halfway point of the season. And now that they only have 3 more conference road games the rest of the way.
Hootie, we appreciate your time and your promotion of your articles. And you jumped into the one that I was going to ask you about. It's at jerryratcliffe.com, and it's Odom made all the right moves at halftime, and it paid off with another ACC road win. How important was that for Ryan Odom? Because it is year 1 of him at Virginia, and he kind of gone through a spell where, particularly the last couple of games, felt like he was outcoached in the second half by North Carolina at JPJ the week before. And then against Notre Dame, they couldn't quite shake the Irish and needed 2 overtimes to get the victory. What value is there amongst the Virginia fans that Ryan Odom showed, hey, when you get into these kind of grind out mid-January spots, you're able to make the right adjustments and elevate your team to maybe not a pretty win, but a win that still counts as one and get you to 7-2 in the ACC?
Yeah, I think it's huge. Tony Bennett was the master of making halftime adjustments, and I think Odom is not quite at that point, but I think he's really good at it and will get better. But and I think he knows that he made some big mistakes at halftime against North Carolina and just didn't really prepare for what Carolina was going to throw at him in the second half. And I think somebody heard him mumble that he would never be out-coached by Hubert Davis again. And so I think he learned a valuable lesson there, and it showed in these 2 road trips. And you're right, a win over Boston College counts the same as a win over Duke or North Carolina or Clemson in the ACC standings. So you can't take any of those for granted. But I think he made all the right decisions at halftime of both of those games and was able to outlast Notre Dame, and like you said, in double overtime, and to take over the BC game down the last. They didn't give up a field goal the last 5 minutes of that game at BC. So, and DeRidder was again unstoppable and won ACC Player and Rookie of the Week, I think, as a result. But he's they're learning more about how to exploit other teams with his ability to drive the ball, and most people don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is Virginia's found these ways, and they're adjusting, and they have the personnel to do it. And it doesn't mean they are top heavy. That may be the one weakness we get toward March that gets exploited, but they're in a lot of these games and in a lot of these spots because of the foundation that's been built. The foundation has been built for years, and now it is carried over at jerryratcliffe.com. Hootie, thank you for joining us in the Fast Lane, weighing in with your perspective on the Who's, and we look forward to chatting again soon.
Looking forward to it, Ed. See you soon.
Now to Just For You Haters, Let's Hand Up the Commanders.
She is out in San Francisco or somewhere around that vicinity. Our president, Madam President, Bowie TV Sports, Candy Waller, with us in the Fast Lane. Seawall, first of all, have our prayers been answered that God has delivered you and your contingency safely out to the West Coast and away from this snow so you can cover Super Bowl 60.
Yes, I'm actually on the bus now. Can you hear me? I'm on the bus now.
We
It's
can.
opening night. The media shuttle had its opening night. So yes, I am here, and Karita Parks is also en route now. She's flying to friendly skies as we speak.
Oh, my girl, Karita Parks. Of course you are as well, Seawall. But, when we need somebody to help weigh in because people are acting a fool out there, and it happens regularly, we page Parks PR for that. So we just had to, we have to notify you of that. And I apologize for wasting your time with that recognition. But Karita has come in clutch, far too handy, which brings us to the inevitable question for you and for the Washington Commanders. There are a lot of these, one of them being the story that came out late last week. It does not appear that Josh Harris being connected, and I don't want to get overly political, but he's one of the owners that's been mentioned in the Epstein files. His appears to be more in a business sense as opposed to some other owners where it appears to have gone beyond that. Am I reading incorrectly that, the name is there, the connection between the Commanders owner Josh Harris and the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein are there, but it doesn't seem to be the same as others. Am I misinterpreting that, or is that an accurate depiction of what you gathered?
I think it remains to be seen. Hopefully, it was just the assumption. To your point about the NFL just put out a statement today about regarding the Giants co-owner, and that was named in the Epstein files. And then it is anticipated that Roger Goodell's press conference that should be starting in about 18 minutes or so, it will be 3 p.m. here. He would be addressing this as well. I'm certain he'll be asked about it. But let's really hope that Josh Harris is not involved in that, and that it's strictly for business purposes.
Wow. So we got a lot to still uncover about this particular development. Obviously, it's quite appropriate that your colleague from Parks PR, Karita Parks, will be out there with you. What are you looking to see out of the commissioner when he speaks and particularly is asked about this? Is it clarity? Is it, any type of forcefulness? How are you anticipating that Roger Goodell will handle this? And yes, we can ask you if you've spoken with Karita Parks about this, any insight that she could weigh in as well.
Well, what's interesting is we see that they've, the NFL's already issued a statement, right? So they proactively issued a statement. I'm so certain in anticipation of the press conference that's happening today, and so certain that they know that he'll be asked about it. But my hope is that, along with them proactively addressing it, that Commissioner Goodell also has a prepared statement or something to say in regard to what the NFL plans to do to ensure they get down to the facts. In the press release, it says they're going to be looking and researching the facts, but I'm so certain that my media colleagues are going to be wanting to know, okay, so what does that mean in process of actually getting down and researching the facts? What is the process? What are they going to be doing? And if something is found, what will be the repercussions of that?
Seawall, Candy Waller, POE TV president, Madam President, with us here in the fast lane. Seawall, pivoting away from that to the Washington Commanders and their staff changes, they have not had media availability with either the new offensive coordinator, David Blau, or Durante Jones, the new defensive coordinator. Is this alarming, or is this the type of thing that you would expect, since it doesn't appear the staffs have been set, particularly with the news over the weekend that Ryan Kerrigan, Sharif Floyd, and others on the defensive side will not be retained?
Yeah, I think, every time a staff changes over, or a new coordinator comes, you see, a staff change. And they're able to bring in their own folks, whoever is still on the staff that kind of aligns with what they want to do, with their abilities, they would keep them. I think this week, they're still working to make sure that staff is finalized, and you can anticipate perhaps a press conference to include head coach Dan Quinn, David Blau, and Durante Jones early next week. It looks like it will probably be Tuesday, February 10th.
So we'll get more after the Super Bowl then, which, by the way, you can hear starting at 2 p.m. all across the Virginia Talk Radio Network, including VTR and Sports Lynchburg, 93.3 FM. Seawall, we've touched on the Commanders and where things are. Maybe not the most exciting news, but stuff that is to be covered nonetheless. What else are you seeking as you and Karita Parks are out there for Bowie TV Sports?
I think what we'll be thinking is just, we've reached out to our media colleagues to see if folks want to talk to us about the outlook for the Commanders, of course, with her for the outlook for the Baltimore Ravens. But in terms of specifically the Washington Commanders, if we run into any current or former players, let's get their take on how things are shaking out. And even for some, right, let's get their take on whether or not they would want to be back and what their thoughts are on staying with the team or not. There's so many one-year deals, and there's a ton of speculation, especially with it being, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So it'll be interesting to get their take on that.
We will look forward to it. The coverage will be there. Bowie TV Sports, Candy Waller, Seawall SE on Twitter, and CEO Seawall on Instagram. Candy, thank you for your time in the fast lane. Glad to hear you made it out there, and we'll send prayers that those earthquakes that were apparently all out there in the Bay Area today do not return, at least for another week.
Yes, thank you all so much, and I'll be talking to you guys again soon. I'm glad we were able to catch one another.
Indeed we are. Prayers for you and Karita all throughout the week. Seawall with us here in the fast lane. When we return, David Cunningham of TechSideline.com on the Lady Hokies. Are we starting to buy in now? I know they lost to Louisville and it looked pretty bleak, but 7 in a row? We'll discuss next here in the fast lane.
Mark Dalton here with Terry Volkswagen. Get ready to fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terrybw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
We're joined by Randy Trost with Trost Law. Randy, unfortunately, you guys seem to be seeing a lot of people that are driving without insurance and then impacting other motorists. What have you guys noticed, and what do people need to know to protect themselves?
We are seeing clients come into our office being injured by motorists without insurance. And the most important thing that a person can do to protect themselves against these uninsured motorists or underinsured motorists is to make sure their own uninsured, underinsured coverage matches their liability coverage for their insurance policy on their car, and make sure they have more than the minimum liability coverage limits and uninsured, underinsured motorist liability coverage limits.
Randy Trost with Trost Law discussing how you can protect yourself from uninsured or underinsured motorists. When people are considering their policies, do you have any do's or don'ts to make sure they have a strong policy?
I recommend getting a minimum of $100,000 single event liability insurance policy and making sure that your uninsured, underinsured liability limits are matching that $100,000 liability policy.
Randy, thank you for sharing that info with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
For more about how Trost Law can help you if you've been hurt, trostlaw.com, 434-777-HURT.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real technology so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Whether you're facing a tough season or looking for support to overcome life's obstacles, Central Virginia Counseling is here for you. Central Virginia Counseling is accepting new clients at both Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road. And telehealth is available anywhere in Virginia. Serving children, teens, and adults, our counselors are equipped with diverse skill sets to help you on your journey. For more information, visit us at centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Do we need to reframe things? We're not above admitting when we're wrong, so we do that potentially right now in part 2 of
It's time for your teams and topics. covering the Commonwealth. A look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the Virginia Tech Hokies.
With David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. He's at the Real D Cunna on Twitter and Instagram, and he's also with the TSL podcast. David, great to be speaking with you in the Fast Lane. Quietly, although loudly to those that have the VTR and Sports app, because you can listen to Virginia Tech Lady Hokies basketball. This team now, which at one point looked pretty disheveled, including a big loss at Louisville, all of a sudden they've won 7 consecutive games. Do we need to rethink where Megan Duffy's program is? They may not all have been against the top teams in the ACC, but they're taking care of business, and they're doing so emphatically.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. I think, they've really turned a corner, and that Miami loss where they were up big and then blew the game, that came on the heels of, right around the Louisville loss. And those back-to-back setbacks kind of made them think about things a little bit differently. It feels like forever ago now, Ed, but when I went down to SMU for the men and women back-to-back and the women throttled the Mustangs, that was kind of their second straight win. They'd just beaten Syracuse, and it seemed like they were putting something together, but now they've won 7 in a row, and they beat UVA handily yesterday. And I talked to Kyla Freelon after that game at SMU, and she said, we're just more motivated. We're just playing better and practicing better, and we have more energy, and we are a better team off the floor now than we were before. I think those losses really made them look interior, look in a little bit, and kind of find something. And I think they found it. You've seen that. They beat UVA pretty handily. I thought they were in control for the majority of that game, and this comes on the heels of them blowing out just about everyone else they played in this last stretch, with the exception of Clemson, who they had a remarkable comeback against. I think they're playing really good basketball right now, and there's not a game on the rest of their schedule, the 6 or 7 ACC games they have left. All of these are winnable. They're not going to win them all, of course, because that's the way the game goes, but there's not one with the way they're playing right now. I look at that and say, man, they can't win that one. They've got a chance in every single one of them. And I think it's impressive. They've got Notre Dame on the road on Thursday. Who would have thought the Hokies would be riding a 7-game win streak and the Irish would have lost 2 of their last 3? And it's just such an interesting dynamic right now with this team.
So there are plenty of reasons to get on the North Carolina Tar Heel football program and their general manager, Michael Lombardi, but I will use and borrow one of his quotes because I actually think this is applicable to the Lady Hokies, having listened to their game yesterday against Virginia on the VTR and Sports app, your own for Tech football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball as that season is around the corner. There's who's in the lead and who's in control. The reason for utilizing that quote is, I think your article detailed this very well, the write-up at TechSideline.com. The better team from start to finish Sunday afternoon. Even when Virginia Tech trailed at the end of the first quarter, did you get the sense that they were the better team and it was only a matter of time before their style of play ground that Virginia offense to a halt?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was only going to be a matter of time, and I thought they missed some shots, but they never really had a lull, Ed. I thought they did a really good job of kind of sticking to their principles, not getting too high or too low, kind of just grinding out the game. I thought that was one of their better overall games of the entire season. I thought, given how good Virginia is, and Virginia has been very good this year, specifically on the glass, specifically in distributing the ball, right? UVA came in leading the ACC in assists per game, averaging 19, finished with 5, had 13 turnovers, came in as one of the nation's best in terms of rebounding, averaging a margin of 12.5 a game. It was a 1-point margin or 1 rebound margin on the glass. UVA blocks a lot of shots, more than anyone in the country. And the Hokies blocked more shots than the UVA did, 6-5. Like, the Hokies played this so well. And I thought it was kind of just a matter of time. Karis Baker had that stretch in the first half, Ed, where she got a lot of good looks. She was 0 for 7. And I thought, man, if she can just get a couple down, they're going to blow this thing open. And they did. She was 4 for 4 in the second half, hit 3 threes. UVA kind of sagged off of her a little bit, which Coach Mox was not happy about after the game. And, I think you saw Virginia Tech kind of just go, yeah, we'll get it eventually. We'll keep playing. We'll keep finding. We'll keep doing what we're doing because it's going to work eventually. And I think you saw them be the better team. They never really had a lull. They were never really off. Yes, they missed some shots, but it wasn't like they were completely out of the game for large stretches of the time. They didn't go on a 5-minute scoring drought like the men did on Saturday against Duke. So I think they're playing really good basketball, Ed. And I think their continuity is helping. Having players like Samaya Suffer and Layla Wells coming off the bench, giving you 13 combined in the first half, that's huge. I mean, when you can get bench production, when your main pieces and Carly Wenzel and Karis Baker are clicking, it's all coming together right now. And, man, they are in position for a double bye in the ACC tournament right now. That's pretty crazy to say.
It is, especially after that loss to Louisville, where you and I both were going, what are we getting with this team? All of a sudden, they're in a different spot, quietly too. Is that a reasonable observation about the Lady Hokies, that, they're doing this, but it may not be the flashiest, but my goodness, Carly Wenzel drawing 13 fouls, which is insane. And then obviously they held tough with the rebounding. Size is not their strength, and yet they held tough with the rebounding. Is it that they were only out-rebounded by a taller Virginia team, or is it the fact that they were so aggressive offensively, you think, Megan Duffy is watching Mike Young?
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes you just got to attack it and draw fouls and play the game the way it's kind of being set up to play. I thought this is a team that is a bit undersized against a UVA team with a lot of length, and the rebounding and the fouls drawn go hand in hand, because I thought the Hokies did an excellent job of attacking and drawing fouls, which put UVA's bigs in foul trouble. Samaya Smith, Amanze, they were on the bench for good chunks of that game on Sunday. As a result, the Hokies were able to kind of squeeze in there and grab a couple extra rebounds here and there. Carly Wenzel drawing 13 fouls, Mackenzie Nelson drawing 8. I mean, that's as simple as them driving downhill, going up, getting contact. And yeah, I don't think a lot of UVA fans like it. And I've seen some pretty foul-heavy games this year. But I didn't look at that and go, man, those weren't fouls. Virginia Tech was the aggressor. And when you're the aggressor, when you attack downhill, when you drive to them and make them defend you at the rim, you're going to get fouls. You're going to get fouls called. Now, Carly Wenzel joked that she made more than 12 of her 20 free throw attempts. But I think the Hokies are finding different ways to win. Sometimes it's the three-point shooting. Sometimes it's the defense. Sometimes it's the transition where they're forcing turnovers and they're getting out and running. In this game, it was play good defense, rebound the ball well, force some turnovers, take care of the ball. They only had 8 themselves, and then they drew a lot of fouls, got UVA in foul trouble, made free throws. And by the end of the game, I thought it got to a point where UVA just was so out of sorts, and the Hokies were still a pretty well-oiled machine.
David Cunningham is at the Real D Cunna on Twitter and Instagram, and the easiest place is just remembering techsideline.com. David, we'll pivot over to men's basketball. Is that about what you expected against Duke?
Yeah, it was. I thought they played okay. I mean, they're within 6 with within 4 or 6 with 4 minutes to go, and it's like, hey, this is a game. But every possession matters in a game against Duke. David Teal pointed this out to Mike Young this morning on the ACC teleconference. Hokies only had 58 possessions in that game against Duke, lowest in a handful of years. That's ridiculous, but that's also a combination of how the Hokies were playing and how the Blue Devils were playing. And that's a really good Duke team. Cameron Boozer's legit. And I thought Tech was okay defensively in stretches, but you can't allow a team to shoot above 50% if you want to win. Duke shot about 63% in the first half. You can't do that. They had to be better defensively, and they weren't. I thought they did some things on the glass. I thought they did some things in certain areas to give themselves a chance. But the other part of it is when you pull within 6 and you have all the momentum in the arena and then you turn it over in bad spots or you miss open shots. I mean, they were 5 of 21 from 3. You got to hit the shots. You hit the shots, your wide open looks, completely different ball game. I think this is a team that it's a good time that it has an open week right now because you can get Tyler Johnson back in the fold. Everybody can reset a little bit. You can get your legs back under you and go on this stretch run. It was about what I expected. I thought they were okay against a really, really good Duke team that has a legitimate chance to win a national championship. You can't just be okay.
Yeah, you got to be more than okay. You got to be very good, and that's where Virginia Tech is right now. Does this leave them with work to be done in a serious way, or is this about where you would expected them to be 5-5 in the ACC, coming off the loss to Duke, but now they're obviously most difficult game out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's kind of where I expected them to be. I mean, they're sitting at 5-5 through 10 games. Ed. They've got 8 left. 5 of them are on the road, Q1 games. The other 3 are at home, non-Q1 games. They're kind of everybody else, the Wakes, the Florida States, the BCs, right? You got to take care of them. And then I would say probably you got to pick off 2 of the final 5 on the road if you want to feel comfortable about it, whether that's Virginia at the end of the year or between now and then, Clemson, NC State over the next week or 2 weeks, Miami, Carolina. There are opportunities left on the schedule. They're in an okay place. And Mark Berman made the comment this morning, Ed, and it's kind of crazy to wrap your head around. When the Hokies go to NC State, assuming Tyler Johnson is good to go out there and play, this will be the first time since Thanksgiving, before Toby Lalau got hurt against Colorado State, that Tech will have its complete team. Think about that. And the Hokies are sitting here in the NCAA tournament conversation, probably in the middle of the bubble right now, squarely on one side or the other. But they're in an okay spot in the league. But you got to go win on the road now. You got to go take the bull by the horns, if you will, and go win. And if that's at NC State or at Clemson over the next 2 weeks, or is that at Miami or at Carolina or at UVA, it doesn't matter. I think you've got to go do it. And this is where losing a game like SMU at the buzzer really hurts, because that's one fewer quad one win. But I still think that this team has it in them. We just got to go see it. And it'll be an interesting last couple of weeks of the year. Crazy to think it's already February.
Much like they've got the insight in them, and you just got to go see it at techsideline.com and the TSL podcast. We're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you listen to podcasts, and always the VTRN Sports app, your home for the Virginia Tech Hokies. David Cunningham with us here in the Fast Lane. David, thank you for your time. It's great to catch up with you. We appreciate it, and look forward to hearing about Andy Bitter's travails and challenges of navigating snow days, as I love his reactions at Andy Bitter on Twitter, where he details the difficulties of snow days, and I do feel his sympathy as well.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
David Cunningham with us here in the Fast Lane. And that does it for us today as we wrap things up on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGMA Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna, Danville, Southside. That does it for us. Now on to Freddie and Harry, already in progress, and a big one in college hoops tonight. Kansas, Texas Tech, and 8:45 airtime right here on the VTRN Sports app.
80, and don't forget about some tune until that smart speaker of yours. They'll play ESPN Radio. We can't wait to hear from you and continue to hear from you at 888 say ESPN 888-729-3776 on the Freddie